Hey guys, Caleb here from CDBS Studios, and I know what you're all thinking. Caleb, you just made a Ninjago ranking about a month ago. Why are you already making another one? What is wrong with you? I feel like I should admit this now. I wrote, recorded, and edited the last Ninjago ranking back in December of last year, but it just kept getting delayed because there were other videos that were going to be more appropriate to the time, so I released those first. So yeah, for even though technically only a couple weeks ago I released the other Ninjago ranking, it was supposed to come out back in like early January, late December. So yeah, that just kind of ended up being a fault on mine. But with that, we're coming into another Ninjago ranking, and not definitely because I need something to fill this extra week here between February and March. Anywho, Ninjago, a show that I have a lot of emotional connection to, and this series is basically my incredibly interesting series where I'm ranking all of the Ninjago seasons based on some stupid criteria that I decide. And we've already done so much with this. We've ranked the seasons based on their intros, we've ranked them based on the use of the character of Jay, and today we're kind of doing something similar. We're going to be ranking the Ninjago seasons by their use of Kai. And overall, I found this video weirdly a lot harder than when I did this kind of idea for Jay, as if you were to line up the tropes that each of the Ninjago ninja fill, you have Jay that fills the comic relief, and Kai, more or less much like the character of Lloyd, fills the void of the main character. Because this whole show started where Kai was supposed to be the main character of the show before Lloyd entered the show and then completely derailed it to suddenly be about him. But more or less, Kai is that character that gets a lot to do usually because he's supposed to be the main character. And usually when he doesn't have anything to do, it's because the season's focusing on another character. So he just kind of gets very little to do. Other ways, this was a fun little. I thought it would be fun to go ahead and rank the seasons based on how they used the character of Kai. Much like I did for the J video, I didn't want this video to just become, oh, this season gave Kai more screen time than this season, so it has to rank higher. I didn't want to do that because that felt kind of boring. So we're not looking at how each season gives Kai screen time. We're looking at how each season uses Kai. Do they put Kai in some great emotional character arc that makes sense for the character? Do they clearly bastardize him in a season? Do they not use him at all? So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're not looking at like, oh, this season give Kai 10 minutes more screen time than this season, so it has to go higher. So that's the criteria for this video, ranking all 21 of the Ninjago seasons based on how they use the character of Kai, the Fire Ninja. Holy cow, was the island writers allergic to Kai or something? Because they don't use him at all in this season, in this short. I mean, yeah, the island is less of its own season and more or less just an excuse to have a collection of 4-episode shorts that are just meant to set up Seabound. But at the same time, you could have given Kai something to do. I mean, he basically just there with the other ninja on the island because he's one of the ninja. When I literally looked up on the Ninjago fandom wiki to start to get some ideas about what I was working with for each of the seasons, this season, along with the other season in the that kind of ranks in the bottom slot we're going to talk about, it is the shortest summary I've ever seen for one of the Ninjago seasons character descriptions, and most of the time the character description was Kai joined the ninja or the ninja. It doesn't say Kai did this or Kai did that, which is honestly kind of funny. Yeah, the island is really just a season I can understand why they didn't use him because they gave most of the screen time to Jay and Lloyd and also Twitchy Tim, so they didn't really have a lot of time in there for the rest of the ninja. But I think overall that's why it has to rank last, because it's one of the most blatant obvious seasons where they just didn't know what to do with Kai, so he's just there. Yeah, I think we can stop there. That seems pretty good for the island today. That's enough talking about it. In the same vein, were the Sons of Garmadon riders also allergic to Kai? Because holy cow, he does nothing in this season. I mean, this is a season that is also very funnily in the same category as The Island, where basically when you look on the Ninjago fandom wiki for the description of what a character does every season, most of the time it's just Kai and the ninja, or the ninja did this. It's like very rare that Kai gets actually his name dropped in his own character description, which is kind of hilarious for this season. Ultimately, Sons of Garmadon, I can again understand a little bit why Kai was not given a ton of the focus, as it's supposed to be a season more or less about Lloyd. But the thing that also kind of hurts that is that other seasons that are meant to focus on specifically one character usually does a pretty good job at least giving the other characters something to do. So that's honestly a little annoying, but I think ultimately Sons of Garmadon gets to rank above the island because there are a few things Kai gets to do, and it's less of a fact that he's just there. I mean, they do give him a couple things to do, and he does have some great interactions with Nia, but overall, it's a pretty boring use of Kai, and honestly, the only the two things I just mentioned are the only reason it's above the island. Like this is like one of the worst seasons in terms of using Kai. Let's be honest, guys. Yeah, I kind of knew going into this video that Skybound Season 6 was gonna rank pretty low when you use the assumption of using the character of Kai, because, well, first off, the thing that this season does with Kai is that they make him completely girl crazy and loving the new popularity that the ninja have at the beginning of this season, which really only sticks for this one season for some reason, so I don't know why that's a plot point, but sorry, that's topic for a different video. But this season kind of brings up Kai's whole pack about being into women, which of course is not like a new development because he has had that in other episodes, but when it's like the only thing he gets to do, that's not a lot, and it's kind of a joke that gets played out very quickly to the point where it's literally the thing that Nauticon uses to capture him later, which is like, what? Like, why is that what you're using? And that's also where the main issue comes for the use of Kai in Skybound. He isn't in most of the season, as he's part of the early episodes, of course, going to prison with the ninja and that, but then the literal episode right after they get out of prison, they fight Nauticon, and Kai gets captured in the Jin Blade, and then he's gone from the entire rest of the season until the last episode. So I think naturally that has to be why this season ranks so low, because he's in 3 episodes out of the 10. He's been basically 4 episodes of the 10 episode season. And again, I didn't want this to be a video about screen time dictating the ranking, but again, I mentioned this in the J video. When you give character more screen time, you get to do more with the character. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. Yeah, I knew Skybound was going to rank low going into this video, but at least there is stuff to talk about with Skybound, unlike Sons of Garmadon and Hunted, and Island, I mean. So it does get to rank above those 2 seasons, but overall, this season isn't going any higher, guys. I think we can all kind of collectively agree on that. Oh, if it isn't my painfully low-ranking friend, Day of the Departed. Man, I gotta find a category at some point in one of these videos that puts Day of the Departed high on the list, because this is the 3rd consecutive time that it's come low on the list. Day of the Departed is, again, a special that didn't really know what to do with most of the ninja that aren't named Cole, so this special really can't do much, as the main thing that Kai gets to do in this special is he gets to team up with Nia to fight Chen, which is a fun little fight sequence and one of the better fight sequences in Day of the Departed, if we're being honest. But again, that's the only thing he gets to do. And when some of the other ninja involved in this special get other really more impactful fights, like Lloyd versus Pythor and that, then Kai and Nia facing Chen doesn't really have a lot of merit going for it. And it's not even like a case of I'm mad at the special, because at least they paired Kai up with a villain he actually has business fighting. But other than that, Day of the Departed ranks low, doesn't really do anything special, so can't really go too much higher. Sorry about that. Next up, we have Dragon's Rising Season 1, and Dragon's Rising is definitely going to be a very interesting topic through most of these kind of how each season uses the ninja videos, as the main goal of Dragon's Rising is that if your name is not Lloyd, the main focus of the show goes to the new ninja, so Sora, Eren, Ryu, Frack, Wildfire. So the OG ninja, even though they're present, they don't get a ton of impactful plot lines, because most of it's given to the new characters, except unless your name is Lloyd. So overall, Kai doesn't get a lot to do over the course of Dragons Rising. In the first season, I think is definitely the most egregious for him, as he doesn't get used a lot. He technically is the first ninja that the team reunites with throughout the series, but Kai doesn't do a lot. It's more or less just setting up that he was the only ninja that Lloyd was able to find after the merge, and they've been taking care of the merge quakes and stuff, which is not really anything like super duper special. And other than that, Kai joins the team a couple of times, and this is also where we get the introduction of his relationship with Wildfire, which I found is his relationship through most of Dragons Rising. But here in the first season, at least, it's kind of annoying as the two of them are just butting heads over the fact they have similar powers and similar personalities, which I think they leaned a lot better into with the later seasons, them being more or less like mentor and mentee and like friends. But this season is like them at each other's necks for most of it, which does get annoying very fast. So I don't think I can rank this season very high, unfortunately. But again, there is at least stuff to talk about. So this does deserve to rank over the seasons. I do actually have significant problems with how they use the character of Kai. So yeah, Dragon's Rising Season 1's pretty decent, but it's not going any higher, guys. And Dragon's Rising Season 3 doesn't really fare too much better on its use of Kai from Season 1, as the first half of the season does the plotline of Kai and Nia are trying to find Jay, which is a plotline that kind of doesn't go anywhere very significantly, as Jay just kind of ends up getting involved in their stuff later. So the couple early episodes of them trying to find Jay almost feels a little irrelevant, if I'm being honest. And then after we get into the back half of the season, they have a slight plot line where Kai teams up with Cole to like find this one of the Source Dragon skeletons, and has the like little side plot with Cole before Cole gets his soul sucked out. And then Kai teams up with Nia to go after the Forbidden Five and stuff, and then eventually teaming up with Jay where the season ends. Yeah, this season doesn't fare too much better, as it does have stuff to talk about with Kai, but there isn't a ton of like interesting stuff to talk about. But at least from the new Season 4 trailer, looks like we might get to see more of him with the plotline with Nia and Jay. So this season again might just end up being like the Jay video, where this is more of a setup season for Kai. But overall, this season was fine on its use of Kai. Didn't do anything to like offend me, but at the same time, I wanted, I guess, more out of Kai, unfortunately. Next up, we've got Master of the Mountain, and again, this season isn't massive on its use of Kai. He's there, he goes to the Shintaro for the birthday party, he gets trapped in the dungeon with the others, and fights the Skull Sorcerer and stuff. There is the one thing that Kai does get to do that does at least warrant him having some presence in the story, where in the middle chunk of the season, when the ninja gets separated, him and Zane get sent to the Minos, and Kai ends up becoming the Mino Chancellor, so he does get to have a little bit of a fun side gag about trying to rule this new kind of society of creatures, which is a fun concept on paper, but again, this is something that barely comes up through the back half of the season after the ninja reunite, and even after this season, they've never mentioned it again. So it's kind of a fine little plot line and a fine little side gag, but overall, it's nothing like revolutionary for the character, so I don't think the season can go any higher, unfortunately. I think more than any other season on this list, Seabound kind of frustrates me so badly, because it's a season where you have such a clear idea of what to do with Kai, and then they do jack squat with him. So the premise of Seabound, if I have this correct, is that Nia's powers are screwing up, so they need to take her underwater to go try to figure out what's going on. And when they do this underwater mission, the characters that she goes with is Zane, Jay, Maya, and Pixel. Wait a second, something feels off here. The season's all about Nia, and they're setting it up to be the end of the season where Nia's gonna do this big sacrifice. But all of the focus goes to Jay. That's weird. What other character do I feel like should be getting the focus? Oh yeah, right. Nia's brother, Kai? I didn't even realize that till this rewatch of why is all the focus in this season put on Jay instead of Kai? Like, I get it, Nia and Jay are supposed to be, like, married and stuff like that, so that's fine, but, like, when you have Kai, who's literally Nia's brother, he does jack squat this season, in a season that's kind of supposed to be half based on him. What is going on here? Look, it just kind of frustrates me that he is the character that decides to stay back during the events of the whole underwater mission, because, like, in my eyes, like, you're telling me that, like, your little sister, and you've shown in previous episodes, Kai is extremely protective over his little sister, that she's gonna go underwater to go do all this stuff, and Kai's not gonna go with her. I mean, maybe they're trying to connect it back to possession where Kai was afraid of water, but, like, are you kidding me? Like, you're kidding, right? Like, you're the guy who's gonna stay behind with Cole? Like, huh? Detached from that plot line, Kai does still get some stuff to do. He is the reason for Ray and Maya to get involved in the story, and I like Ray and Maya, so I don't hate that. And when the ninja are on the underwater mission, eventually Kai and Cole get involved, where they go to the Explorers Club to get the medallion and stuff. But overall, this season feels so weird when the whole season is about Nia, teeing her up to have this huge sacrifice at the end, but Jay gets all the focus instead of Kai. Like, I've never noticed that until this rewatch. So, yeah. Seabound is fine. It has at least some good stuff, but it can't go any higher just by how much it frustrates me when a season that should have used Kai a lot didn't use him at all. What? Look, I'm going to keep my discussion of Crystallized kind of brief because much like the Jay video, Kai doesn't get a lot to do during the events of Crystallized, which is frustrating since this was originally supposed to be the last season of Ninjago, so it feels like you should have given everybody something to do. Starting off the list, some of the things that he does do this season is, in the early episodes, we actually get to see that he is sad for the loss of Nia, which so is everybody, so it's not like a plotline exclusive to him, but again, for him, it makes the better sense to be sad since he lost his sister, which at least they finally addressed that, which is fine. And then he works to get her back, going to prison and all that stuff. But again, so does everybody, so there's not much special there. And then after we get to the back half of the season, when the Crystal Council actually starts to attack, Kai ends up teaming up with Cole and Skylar, which is a fun little couple episode run. But and then he unlocks Dragon Form at the end in the final battle. But in the end, much like Jay, for a season that's meant to be the finale, he doesn't get much to do, so that's kind of sad and unfortunate, but at the same time, it's a season that doesn't make me angry, so it doesn't get to rank lower, but it's not going any higher, unfortunately. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked that I have Prime Empire this high. When a lot of people talk about Prime Empire overall, Prime Empire, a lot of people compare it to Skybound, where Kai gets captured, in this case cubed, and then is erased from the story for a couple of episodes. But which is fine, but at the same time, I think it works better here because Kai actually gets a significant amount of the season to be present and do stuff, and then he's only like cubed for like the last couple of episodes. So it's not like he disappears early in the season and then he's just gone till the finale. So anyway, what does Kai's use look like in Prime Empire? Well, he doesn't really do a lot during the early episodes, but then the second we actually make it into Prime Empire itself, Kai is used a lot as an exposition vehicle, where he's the guy who's going to explain to us through his kind of actions that we only get 4 lives inside the game, and how do we double jump and stuff. Like, he's very much an exposition machine when we get into Prime Empire. And then he also gets to be part of the whole battle with the Red Dragon episode arc, which is pretty fun. Actually, I do like Kai in those arcs. And then we have a fun little side gag where in the middle, he wastes coins to buy a skin. Relatable, to be honest. And it leads to that episode. And then he participates in the Speedway 5 billion. And then him and Cole get cubed. And then they're out of the season for the next couple episodes. But at least Kai gets to be part of the season for most of the runtime, and he's only queued for the last little bit. And at least when Kai's around, he gets stuff to do, unlike a Skybound, where it's kind of just boring, girl crazy, and then he disappears. So, other way, Prime Empire is fine. It's very similar to Skybound, but it does do things that are better, so it gets to rank pretty high. It's a fine little season, but again, it's also not doing anything revolutionary with the character, so it can't go any higher, unfortunately. Rebooted is another season that I had a hard time trying to place because, unlike other characters, Kai doesn't get a lot to do this season, as, of course, he's part of the ninja's teacher arc in the first episode before he participates in, like, the hack attack and helping the ninja with the other things they do this throughout this. And then in that one episode where we go into the Digiverse, the Kai is the guy that fares the worst in it, so he's like, again, the exposition vehicle of how to use the Digiverse, which is fine. And then Kai kind of falls off in relevance near the back half, and the most notable thing he gets to do near the end is give the speech at Zane's funeral, which is a great speech. It's one of my favorite moments in Ninjago, but at the same time, it's kind of hard when that's like one of the main things he does all season, which is a little unfortunate. But I mean, again, Rebooted is one of those seasons where it doesn't make me angry with its misuse of Kai, but at the same time, I wish they did more. And especially when you have other character arcs this season that you either love or hate, it kind of makes Kai stick out like a sore thumb as a character that doesn't get a lot to do. But Rebooted's fine. Didn't make me angry, but it didn't do anything revolutionary, so it's not going any higher. Okay, we have a huge improvement over Sons of Garmadon here with Hunted coming up next, and this is a season again that used Kai pretty effectively after he kind of got shafted in Sons of Garmadon, as Kai is one of the characters that gets stuck in the first realm and has to train the now Wu as he grows up from a small child to a teenager, which is great. One plotline that I did kind of like is how Kai really cares for the dragons. It's kind of a fun callback to the earlier seasons where Kai was kind of the best with the dragons, so it makes sense that he would care about freeing them in that. And then after we get out of the dragon camp, he kind of falls off in relevance as we do the middle portion of the season, as it's more now about Cole and Wu and Faith. So we don't get a lot for Kai to do with the team, but it's fun. And then I do actually like that in the final battle, he's the one who defeats the Colossus by being the try-hard daredevil and jumping on the Colossus's chain. So it's fun, again, with Kai, but again, it's not doing anything revolutionary with character, so it's not going any higher, unfortunately. Dragon's Rising Season 2 is kind of the best Dragon's Rising season when it came to using Kai, because this is our first real case of Kai doesn't get a lot of screen time in this season, but what they used him for is absolutely worth putting him up this high, as this season is one, again, where Kai is entirely absent for the back half, as the season revolves around them trying to stop them releasing the Forbidden Five, and then Kai gets stuck in the nether space, and then it's just gone for the entire back half of the season, which not kind of technically, as there are a couple episodes that center on him in that back half, so it's not like he's just out of the season for an entire back half, but when he isn't around, I really like that they used him as a motivation vehicle, as he gets to motivate all the main ninja. Eren gets to have a fun side plot about regretting Kai, and it makes for an overall better season when you take a character out of the equation. It works because I feel like in a lot of cases in Prime Empire and Skybound, they just gloss over the fact that ninja are disappearing, and it's just, oh yeah, we're just at a smaller team now. But then this season actually uses the fact that a ninja disappeared as a vehicle for character development, so that's why it gets to be the best Dragon's Rising season. And again, it's a fun little role for Kai, and I liked it in this season, so it gets to rank this high. But again, there are other episodes, or other seasons, I mean, that I like more, so it can't unfortunately go any higher than right here. Next up, we have the original finale to Ninjago, March of the Oni, and this season was pretty actually good for its use of Kai, all things considered, even though it's 4 episodes, but it does better than The Island did with using the character of Kai over 4 episodes. Some of the things that I do like they do with Kai this season is that he's the guy who's helping Jay practice to propose to Nia, which I think is a good use for him, as he's kind of helping one of his friends propose to his sister. So that seems like a really good role for him to use, and I like that arc. And then of course we get to see his relationship with Nia this season, as after Nia makes the mistake of dropping Cole off the bounty, he's the one who consoles her, which I find a really good use of him again, kind of reminding us that they're siblings. And then the one thing I really find awesome is that for the final battle, he's the character they choose to reforge the golden weapons, which is one of the first times they've acknowledged Kai used to be a blacksmith in like forever. So that was honestly really surprising. And overall, Kai has a pretty good arc over the course of the 4 episodes, which I really do like. See, this is how you can use Kai over 4 episodes. What did we learn here? So Yeah, March Leone's great. It's a great use of Kai, but unfortunately, there are just 7 more seasons that I think are better using him. So unfortunately, March Leone can't go any higher. This is honestly one of my biggest shocks in this whole video. Next up, we have Tournament of Elements Season 4. And weirdly enough, the thing that shocked me so much is technically, if you look at like the list and that, this is supposed to be a Kai focused season where he's the main ninja focus. But they don't really do a lot with him in this season. And I honestly went into this video totally expecting this season to be number 1. And I was kind of shocked at how low I have to rank it for its use of Kai. Starting off with some of our things about Kai is we, of course, have him be a wrestler in the first episode, which is pretty alright. And then once we actually get into the tournament, Kai does get some pretty fun little arcs where we get to see him have some relationship with the other characters as he has this rivalry with Karloff and Ash, which is fun. And then he gets to build this romantic relationship with Skylar, which is great. Then we have the arc where he fake betrays the ninja. And it's kind of great and fun. Excuse me. It's fun. And then we kind of drop off in popularity in a lot of cases where, seeing as the season is based on Kai, you would expect that the villain would be Kai focused. And they try to make Kai have a little relationship with Chen, as we see in the later episodes. But then they kind of drop this as you really get the sense that Chen is more of a Garmadon villain than he is a Kai villain for a season that's meant to be based on Kai. So that kind of makes me think Tournament has to go low, because it's not like Kai has an interesting relationship with the villain or anything really special to do once we get into the actual tournament. So unfortunately, Tournament of Elements can't rank any higher, even though I went into this video fully expecting it to be the top of the list. But hey, that's just the magic of these videos, I guess. You look into certain aspects of programming that you've never thought about before, and suddenly you realize some things don't make sense. So either way, fun little use of Kai, but again, there's other seasons that do it better. So next up, we have Legacy of the Green Ninja Season 2. And this is a season I think that really was fun, as it's kind of the start of the relationship where you have the Lloyd and Kai duo, which I really like. First off, of course, you have Kai training Lloyd, which is the main arc of over the first half of the season with the filler arc. And other than that, Kai doesn't get a lot to do in these early episodes of the filler arc. He's more or less just there. The one notable thing he does get to do is he kind of leads the team in wrong place, wrong time when they go back in time to the pilots, which makes sense because the whole pilots are around his POV. So makes sense that he's the one who leads that. And then once we make it to the Dark Island, Kai doesn't get to do a lot until the very end final battle, where they use Nia becoming evil as a motivation for him, and he kind of gets to be part of that. And then in the final battle, he's the character who fights evil Nia, and then also gets to inspire Lloyd to take the final blow against the Overlord, which I like. So this season was really great for its relationship with Lloyd and Kai, but other than that, they don't do a lot with him this season, so I can't put it any higher. But overall, this was a very fun season that did pretty good for the use of Kai, but at the same time, I can't put it in the top 5, unfortunately. Bringing us into the top 5, we have Secrets of Forbidden Spinjitzu Season 11. This season was really good on its use of Kai, as the One Wild Brain era season that used Kai well, because this season heavily focused on him, starting off with the list that this season's entire inciting incident is Kai losing his powers, where Asphira steals them and then uses them to cause chaos that eventually leads with her sending Zane to the Neverrealm. So in a way, Kai is kind of the inciting incident of this season. And we see in the early episodes, Kai gets to have the relationship with Jake, which is kind of a fun little filler episode that is pretty decent for the use of the character, kind of having him feel useless without his powers, but then have this kid teach him important life lessons is pretty good, especially as they've built that up before in the show where the ninja rely on their powers a little bit too much. So that was fun. And then the overall arc of the season consists of Kai slowly regaining them as we get to the Neverrealm and Kai regains his powers in an ice world, which is great. And then, of course, he gets to have an epic battle with a dragon with his powers. So that's honestly a great arc for him over the season with his powers. So honestly, this was overall a really great season for the use of Kai, and honestly deserves to be number 5. It just unfortunately is beaten out by 4 other seasons that use the character even better. Next up, we have Rise of the Snakes, Season 1. And yes, this season obviously was going to rank high for its use of Kai, because this is the season where Kai is pretty much the main character, and it's basically so obvious it was going to be high. First off, we have the iconic meme line of Kai wanting to be the Green Ninja. Could I be the Green Ninja? Honestly, I quote that to this very day with so many of my friends. And it's a pretty good arc for him over the course of the season as he kind of just tunnel visions to wanting to be the Green Ninja before eventually realizing he has to leave it behind. He has to let go of his things, which even though I'm not huge on his true potential arc, I do think it is nice that he spends the whole season wanting to be the Green Ninja. And then he finally lets it go to train Lloyd, which I think is a great arc. He does get to have some other side things where he gets to have the funny Venomize bit, which is kind of fun and kind of a great way to show what the power of the Venomari can do, as they kind of try to do each of the ninjas, show how each of the powers can use, which is great. And then he also has the arc where he finds out Nia is Samurai X and then has to hide it from the other ninja, which is great. And then after Garmadon enters the picture in the season, Kai gets to have this fun little rivalry with him, which I think is kind of fun. And then the thing I like again is that in the last episode of the season, the finale, is after Wu disappears, Kai is the ninja who steps up and kind of mentors the ninja and gives them the emotional speech they need to keep going, which I like. So overall, Rise of the Snakes was a great season in its use of Kai, and overall deserves to rank high. It just is beaten out again by 3 other seasons that I think are just even better in that regard. Again, no surprises here. Hands of Time, gonna rank high, because again, Kai gets to be the main character alongside Nia, and I really like the use of Kai in this season, as this season really delves deep into the backstory of Nia and Kai's parents, Rei and Maya, which is great, as you kind of get to see some of the early life of Kai and Nia and how Kai took care of her. And it also works really well with the villains, where you have siblings versus siblings, which is great. I want my villains to have emotional connections with my heroes. Thank you very much, Turn of Developments. But overall, it's great. And honestly, the thing that makes it also great, which again, I didn't want this video to be based on runtimes, but again, you give a character more runtime, you get more to do with them. And the last 2 episodes of this season are tunnel vision focused on him and Nia. So yeah, this season was going to rank high. I knew that going in, and it does not disappoint, as it's just great in its overall use of Kai, making him a main character, but also doing a lot of great stuff with his backstory, which I think was needed for this kind of character, because they kind of lost track of that as the show went on. So I'm honestly shocked to report that Possession is my second favorite season in its use of Kai, as this season was like the main season that really hammered home on the relationship between Lloyd and Kai, which I really liked. And the thing that I loved as well is that Moro in this season is designed as Kai's mirror. So the villain gets to have a great relationship with the hero, as you have basically the 2 sides of the coin. Both of them wanted to be the Green Ninja. Kai gave up his wanting to be the Green Ninja to train Lloyd, while Moro never did, and so grew resentment over Lloyd, which is great. Which I love that relationship between Lloyd and Moro and how it kind of plays as the centerpiece to this entire season. So love that. Then we have some of the other things that are more or less running gags throughout the show, where of course we find out Kai is afraid of water, which leads to some fun moments. Kai has his episode Ghost Story, where he tries to lead the ninja. And when we get to the final battle, Cyrus Borg just makes him a headband instead of an actual cool vehicle, which I've always found kind of hilarious. But overall, the relationship Kai has with Lloyd and Moro being the foundation of the whole season is enough to give it high praise in the ranking, because it uses the character in such a creative, fun way. And even though the season, technically, if you look online, is supposed to be branded as a Lloyd-centered season, I think this season is more of a Kai-centered season than Lloyd. So honestly, this season is great for Season Kai, but it's only beaten out by... Guys, I can't even believe I'm saying this. The pilots are the best season in the terms of using the character of Kai. I never would have predicted in a million years that this was going to be number 1 going into this video. But looking back on it now, this kind of is the best season in the use of Kai, because Kai is the main character. Everybody who claims Kai is the main character of Ninjago knows it because they started watching during the pilots, because he is the character who's designed as the main character, the POV we focus on throughout the whole show. And for this whole pilot episode, even though of course the other ninja are there, but this whole season basically focuses on Kai becoming a ninja. We see him struggling with his whole relationship with the others. Nia's kidnap is is the motivation for the whole inciting incident. And overall, this season literally is less of a Ninjago season and more just the Kai show, because that's what this season is. And I never would have, and I completely forgot about that going into this video. So without further ado, Pilots gets to rank as the #1 best season in terms of using Kai, and it's just honestly the greatest shock I've had in this whole ranking. It's crazy. So there you guys have it. My ranking of all 21 Ninjago seasons based on how they use the character of Kai. Again, I know that this is coming out very closely to when I did the other Ninjago video. I promise the next time I do one of these Ninjago videos, it will be definitely a while before we do another one. I wanted to get this out, and I just loved it. So I want to know, how would you rank if you want to take on the challenge yourselves and rank all 21 Ninjago seasons based on how they use the character of Kai? Give me your rankings down below, and if that's maybe just a little too difficult, just give me what your 3 favorite seasons are and maybe what your bottom 3 are. Without further ado, thank you guys all very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys!